It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Welcome to episode number 484 of Rico Brogna as the New York Mets officially lose the Subway Series at Yankee Stadium 2 out of 3 in a game that was a heartbreaker, even if the final score says 8-2, 2-2 game, bottom of the eighth inning. Disaster strikes. Before we get into this game, before we recap the series, before we look ahead to Boston, before we complain wildly about the state of this Met team, let me complain wildly about the freaking parking lot at Yankee Stadium. I went to this Sunday night game, and instead of doing a drive home Rico, I figured, it's a series-ending Rico. Let me wait till I get home to the Rico Brogna studio, and we can politely talk about this series ending. I was in the Jacob Rupert parking lot, and I'm not a big parking lot guy. When I go to Yankee Stadium, I usually try to find a spot on the street, sometimes legal, sometimes illegal, and I take my chances. And the reason I do that is because getting out of Yankee Stadium when you're parked on the street is not that difficult. But when you go into a lot, it's usually a wait. Usually you got to wait. Cars are moving, cars are here. Then you get out of the lot, and then there's traffic. But I took my oldest son, so I didn't want to deal with the street parking. Didn't want to deal with him walking up that giant hill on Woody Crest. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be a responsible father, and I'm going to go into the parking lot. What a freaking nightmare. I timed it. From the moment we got into our car, and yes, we stayed to the bitter end, and that was part of the problem because a lot of people left early. Once Cody Bellinger hits the grand slam, the place empties out. So everyone's in their car. They're preparing to leave. From the moment we got in the car to exit of the Rupert took 49 minutes. 49 minutes. And most of it didn't involve any moving. And to make it worse, there was no cell reception. So I wanted to text my wife, as most of us may do. Hey, hon will be home in an hour. Couldn't even text her. Couldn't even text Pete, the Hoffermater, saying, hey, Hoff, I may have to push back to Rico. Couldn't contact the outside world. And I tell my son, I said, Jet, I know this is not appealing. Close your freaking eyes. Try to go to sleep. You got school the next day. Meanwhile, as we were leaving the ballpark, Tommy Lugauer, the fine executive producer of Evan and Tiki, decides to tell Jet, hey, when you go to school tomorrow, just tell Yankee fans they won their World Series. And I'm like, Jet, if you do that, I mean, you can, but don't play that game. And that's where we'll start. Let's not play that game. I have done the Rico now for 3 years, parts of 3 years, parts of 4 years, I guess. I've been on WFAN full-time since 07, at all since 04. And I am not going to play the game of, hey, it's your World Series. I'm not going to minimize us losing 2 out of 3. They won the series. Now, what does that mean at the end of the day? Probably not that much. Much like us sweeping them a year ago. It was nice in the moment. It's nice little fodder. But at the end of the day, it's a series. It's not the end of the world. It's not also the entire world, much like last year. So for those Yankee fans voyeuristically listening or watching the Rico Brogna, looking for pain by the fact that we lost to the New York Yankees, you're not going to get it. Here's what you're going to get. I'll give you a little preview. You're going to get us talking about the problems this team has. You're going to get us talking about what happened in the finale of this series and any concerns we have moving forward. Like, for example, this offense continues to be a problem. Do I tip my hat partially to Max Fried, who's had a fine season? Yeah, to a degree. I mean, Max Fried's been great all year. And the Mets got 2 runs against them, so I guess that's a party. One of it was a break because Fried threw that wild pitch before he struck out Juan Soto. But this offense has been inconsistent all year. This offense, really going back to the finale against Pittsburgh, and if you want to even go before that, has done next to nothing. So when you highlight, hey, what happened in this 3-game series, or specifically what happened on Sunday night, it's kind of the same story all year long whenever this team loses a game. They don't hit, and they don't take advantage of opportunities. In this game, in the second inning, they had 2 on and nobody out. And thank God for Jeff McNeil, because remember, Marte struck out, Alvarez struck out, and it looked like they were going to take a scoring opportunity and throw it away. They get the 2-out hit from Jeff McNeil. Unfortunately, Luis Angel Acuna can't build off of that. They get a double from Starling Marte with 2 outs in the 4th inning. They can't take advantage of it. Even in the 5th inning where they did tie the game, they did it on a wild pitch. Acuna laid down the bunt, which I got to be honest, I didn't have a problem with because I looked at it this way. Runner on first, nobody out, 5th inning, down by a run. Acuna has not exactly been sparking it lately anyway. Let me give my best hitters an opportunity with runners in scoring position. Let me just give it to them. If I'm going to win this game, I'm going to need a big hit from my big guys. So I didn't have a problem with it. I thought Acuna was really bunting for a hit anyway to try to set up 2-1 and nobody out for Lindor and Soto. Problem is Lindor grounds out. Now, they take advantage of the Max Fried wild pitch, really aggressive base running by Jeff McNeil, who in a lot of ways was the best player on the field for the Mets tonight, or last night, depending on when you're consuming the Rico. Had the RBI hit in the 2nd inning with 2 outs, drew the leadoff walk in the 5th inning, scored on the wild pitch, even walked in the 7th inning. And that was another golden opportunity the Mets couldn't take advantage of. Jonathan Loaisiga comes in. It looks like he's going to put together an immaculate inning, and McNeil draws a walk. And then Acuna hits that ground ball to third that Peraza just can't make a play on, turns into an error. And you're set up with Lindor, 2 on, 2 out. And it's bad luck. See, this is the thing. When I asked Mendy the other day about their struggles with runners in scoring position, one of the things he said was, well, sometimes we hit in a bad luck. And he's not wrong. Like, that Lindor one was a line drive. It was right out Juan Soto. It was bad luck. Much like DJ LeMahieu had bad luck a day earlier when he came up with guys on base and lined one right at Juan Soto. The problem with the bad luck discussion is it adds up. It adds up because they're not hitting consistently with runners in scoring position. And certainly you can circle a few of those bad luck scenarios. But there's plenty of others, like Francisco Alvarez in the 4th inning, who just struck out with a runner on 2nd and 2 outs. But I start with the offense. I'll get to the defense in a second, don't worry, because that's been kind of the overreaching issue or overarching issue whenever they lose games. The Mets are right now 29-18, which is pretty good. But when they lose games, it's usually for this reason. Now, let's get to the crap defense. I made a suggestion on the Rico that we did after game 2 of this series, and that was simply, hey, Brett Baty is earning it. And he's earning an opportunity to start against the lefty, even a tough one like Max Fried, because of his defense. And it didn't hurt that he had career numbers against Fried that were at least respectable. Small sample size, 2 for 6. But Brett Baty deserved to start this game, the finale of the Subway Series, not because I thought he was getting 3 hits against Max Fried, but because his defense is that much better than Vientos is. And I don't know what happened to Mark Vientos defensively, because I could understand offensively why he's had a kind of a step back year. And there's still plenty of time for Vientos to turn it around. He's got the average up to 240. Not great, but certainly a lot better than where it was a couple of weeks ago. And I have faith that this season could start to still turn into a, maybe not the matching of last year, but a solid offensive year. And he's shown progress in that regard. But how do you explain the defense going backwards? I'm not trying to tell you he was every Brooks Robinson last year, but he was better than this. And in the 1st inning of this game, the first batter of this game, Mark Vientos can't make a routine play on a Paul Goldschmidt ground ball to third base. And what makes that frustrating is that it has all been opened up now for Mendy, at least for now, to say, you're the DH. There is no DH on this team. Starling Marte starts against lefties, and he did have a double in this game. So, all right, I didn't want to play him. I wanted to DH Vientos and play Baty at third base. And even though I'm not sure if Baty would have gone 1 for 2 with a double in his 2 at-bats against Max Fried, I know he wasn't going to butcher the Paul Goldschmidt ground ball to third base, which set up that entire 1st inning. The Yankees end up getting 2 runs because of the Cody Bellinger double. And obviously you can't assume everything falls the same if the play is made on Goldschmidt, but that's an unearned run. And that's a run that was handed to the Yankees because of the bad defense by Mark Vientos. And I think that this game, this finale against the Yankees, really shed a light on something that we've talked about, but maybe haven't talked enough about. And that's the fact that the defense hasn't been good enough. And that gets exposed when you're not hitting. When you are relying on winning low scoring, close games, which the Mets have had to do a lot this season. You look at these 29 wins, how many of them have been 3-2 games, low scoring games? When you rely on that, your defense needs to be better than this garbage. So I start with Mark Vientos because that's the tone setter of the game. Coldy hits a ground ball to third base, and we were just coming off a game in which Brett Beatty made every play imaginable, and here's Vientos booting an easy one. Now let's jump ahead. Let's jump ahead to the Pete Alonso play in the eighth inning, because the Mets are kind of flirting with trouble all night long. David Peterson was able to make the big pitch quite often. Even in that first inning after he gave up that double to Cody Bellinger, that could have turned into an even more crooked first inning or a crooked number. And he got Volpe out, and he got Dominguez out. He put the leadoff man on in the second. He got out of it. He gets into trouble in the fifth inning, really the walk to Paul Goldschmidt ahead of Grisham, and then walking Aaron Judge intentionally, and then walking Cody Bellinger on 4 pitches, and he gets Volpe to ground out. And then you jump ahead to the seventh, where Huascar Brazaban had his issues throwing strikes, specifically walking Grisham ahead of Judge with 2 outs and nobody on, which cannot happen, and he makes the huge pitch against Volpe. So they were dancing with trouble all night long. And then you go to that eighth inning with Ryan Stanek on the mound. And after he issues a leadoff walk to Dominguez, same problem, that cannot happen. And he gets a big strikeout against LeMahieu. He hangs a splitter on 1 and 2 to Austin Wells on the pitch after Mendy and the trainer came out to check on Stanek because I guess something was going on with his leg. Mendy says after the game had nothing to do with him hanging a sinker to Austin Wells. And then you get to the Yorbat Vivas at bat with second and third, 1 out. What a great, first of all, let me give credit to an opponent. Sometimes we're allowed to do that. A great at-bat by Vivas. Kept fouling ball after ball after ball off against Stanek, who's pumping it in at 99 and 100. And I'm sitting in I was sitting in a luxury suite, so I was bougie tonight, I admit. But I'm in the right field corner. So I see Vivas hit that ball right at Pete Alonso. And like it was a slow motion horror movie, because there are certain things as a Met fan you'll never get over. There are certain things you will never forget, certain things that still haunt you throughout your life. Kenny Rogers walking Andrew Jones is certainly one of them. Lucas Duda, you knew I was going there. I think we were all going there. Lucas Duda's throw in the 2015 World Series is still a haunter. And as Pete makes that play, which I feel like I'm on top of because we're upstairs, we're above the right field corner, so we're looking down on him. As Pete winds up to make that throw, and I see the ball sailing to the point where Alvarez is not even making an attempt for it because it was such a wild throw. I had a sickening callback feeling to the Lucas Duda throw. And look, does he get Dominguez at the plate? I have no idea. We saw Alonso make the exact same play one day earlier where he made a perfect throw. So we know he's capable of it. And Pete took full responsibility after the game. Thank you, Pete. But that was an absolute nightmare sequence. With that said, and Pete's got to be better, and we all know it, you don't have to give up an RBI single to Paul Goldschmidt. That doesn't have to happen. And then when Hennessy's Cabrera comes in, he doesn't have to give up a grand slam to Cody Bellinger right after he struck out Aaron Judge to give us a little bit of a tease. All that doesn't have to happen. But clearly that throw, that miscue by Pete Alonso opened up the floodgates. And give Pete some credit because after the game, he said that was the momentum changer. Basically, that play led to everything else. And it did. And Pete's got to be better. He can't make a garbage throw like that. Because I don't know how much stuff affects guys mentally, but if Pete makes a perfect throw and Dominguez beats it, it sucks. But maybe he's right. Maybe it doesn't lead to a Goldschmidt RBI single, a walk to Grisham, and then a grand slam 2 batters later to Cody Bellinger. So this defense needs to get better. And it's been almost everybody. Lindor didn't make any miscues today, but we all know his defense hasn't been good enough. Honestly, the guy who played great defense this weekend was Juan Soto. I mean, he plays a ball perfectly off the wall in game 2, holding a runner from third. He made a great running catch that I did not see in this game because that was the baño portion of the game, the bathroom part of the game. It happens. I mean, I did kind of see it because I put it on my phone as I was waiting, but I didn't see it live, put it that way. So Juan Soto, and we'll get to him, Juan Soto has a huge base running play that leads directly to a run, helps the Mets win a game. He makes some really good defensive plays, including that running catch in game 3, playing it well off the wall in game 2. But he hits and does nothing offensively. So it was everything the opposite of the critiques and the compliments of Juan Soto. He gives you nothing offensively, including just an absolute dud here in the finale of this series, going 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, and then barely runs a ball out when DJ LeMahieu robs him of a base hit to start the 8th inning. But his base running was good, and he played some really good defense. Yippity-doo-dah. And I'll make you a prediction. I've already made this prediction leading into the series, but I'll say it now here on the Rico Brogna. The honeymoon is over. Because a lot of Met fans expected this weekend to be the breakout. That for all of his struggles, and I get it, because we've talked about it here, it's not as if he's been abysmal. We know his OPS is good. We know he draws a lot of walks. We know he impacts guys around him. No one's denying that. No one's saying this is an all-time awful season. But what we are saying is he hasn't been impactful enough. And the view was this is the weekend where he becomes impactful. This is the weekend against his former team with all the boos, with all the talk, with all the expletive chants. Juan Soto's going to stick it to him. And he didn't. And quite frankly, as I sit here right now, before we get into the Rico, I'm the man now star of the series and the net negative, despite the good base running and despite the good defense, I almost think because of this belief that this was going to be the weekend he breaks out, he is the net negative. Because I think when you look at this weekend, you have a lot of options to point at one person. You could go to Tylor Miguel, who crapped the bed in the opener. He's probably the favorite to be the net negative of this series. But the truth is, they didn't score any runs. They scored 2 runs in the finale. They scored 3 runs in game 2. They scored 2 runs on Friday. You score 7 runs in a 3-game series, you're lucky you won a game. So it should be someone concerning the offense. Look, Francisco Lindor didn't do much in this series. You could certainly pick him. Francisco Alvarez, when he played, didn't do anything in this series. You can pick him. Mark Vientos combined the defense and the fact he didn't do much in this series. You can pick him. But the thing about Vientos and Lindor is they each drove in a run. And remember, the Mets only had 7 of them. So I think when you combine the belief that he was going to stick it to his former team and stick it to all those fans that booed him and chanted F words at him and turned their back on him. Good job, Tiki. I'll tell you right now, and maybe it's emotional because I just sat in an hour and a half of traffic getting the hell out of Yankee Stadium. But the expectation we all had, right or wrong, probably wrong, was that this was his breakout. This was his Met moment. To me, makes him the net negative. It's either him or Tylor Miguel. So I'll give it to Juan Soto. Do you agree with that, Hoff? Is that a reasonable rip that we all figured against his former team he'd break out? And he did nothing. Let's go through it. He went 0 for 4. He went 1 for 4. And he went 0 for 2. And great. He drew a bunch of walks. He drew 4 walks. I don't know if that's enough.
No, I mean, listen, he was awful. At least, again, offensively, awful. And yeah. I thought that there was going to be one game. It was one game that he was going to just completely take over. We've seen it before. He's had 2 games already where he's had multiple home runs in a game. And I'm like, all right, that's going to happen. That's going to happen at least once. And if that's all we get, at least he steps up. and we got none of it. There was nothing. There was that weak, like you said, there was a weak ground ball to second base that LeMahieu made, and he barely ran to first base. It just was very disappointing. So yeah, I won't deny it. He's the biggest flop of the series for sure.
Yeah, and look, there's a lot of candidates for the net negative. I mean, even Pete Alonso, outside of the 2 hits he had in game 2 of this series, and they were big, like the RBI single in the 4th. He had a double in the 8th inning that didn't lead to anything. That saves him, because if he doesn't have that, he's clearly the net negative based on the defensive miscue that essentially cost them the finale of this series. And he also took an 0 for 4 with multiple strikeouts in the finale of this series. This was one of those weekends. And it kind of is amazing as you talk about it that they won a game. Like, everything you think about from this series, especially offensively, should have led to them being swept. And quite frankly, they were lucky they won the Saturday game. Luckily, Francisco Lindor's medium depth fly ball to center field was enough to score Acuna from third base. But even when they scored runs over the weekend, again, only 7 of them, think about the runs that they scored. I mean, it wasn't a lot. Brandon Nimmo had an RBI single in the 4th inning of game 1. Lindor had what felt like a meaningless RBI double in the 9th inning of the first game. Let's see. Then you had Alonso's RBI single, a sac fly by Vientos, a sac fly by Francisco Lindor. In this game, they had an RBI single by McNeil and a wild pitch. A run score got a wild pitch. It was not a lot. They also didn't hit a home run in their series. We joke about Yankee Stadium. They couldn't take advantage of it. So this is one of those take your picks for the net negative, but I'll make it official. To me, it's Juan Soto. In terms of the I'm the man now Rico star of the series, this is probably the easiest one we've ever handed out. The easiest. It's like, I want to name one person. I mean, look, I don't want to say I want to name one person, because I do want to give Griffin Canning credit for pitching into the 6th inning and allowing 2 runs. And as I mentioned on episode 483, I would have taken him out earlier. So honorable mention Griffin Canning, honorable mention Edwin Diaz, honorable mention even Jeff McNeil, who showed you a little bit. Honorable mention all those guys. But in the biggest blowout maybe we've ever had, the Rico I'm the man now star of the series is Huascar Braziban. Huascar Braziban, you think about what he did in game 2, cleaning up the mess set up by Mendoza/Canning with 2 on and 1 out, and he very calmly gets 2 ground balls to get through that inning, and then a 1-2-3 7th inning, including striking out Aaron Judge. Should have gotten the win, but we have antiquated rules in terms of wins. So he is your clear star of the game from Saturday. Remember, the origin of the Rico Brogna I'm the man now star of the series is that in my scorebook that I've been using for many, many years, I always pick a star of the game. And it's not a Met player. It's whoever I think was the star of the game. And I write it down in my little box and I move on. So, for example, in this game, the finale of this series, to me, the star is Cody Bellinger. It's kind of easy. He drove in 6 runs. I mean, it is the biggest no-brainer when it comes to star of a game. So we took that and said we should do that for every series. And Huascar Braziban gets 5 outs, is the star of the Saturday game. And in this finale, even though he didn't make it easy, how about the balls that this guy showed? Now, let me rip him slightly, because he comes into a tie game in the 7th inning, gets the first 2 guys out, and now he's facing Trent Grisham. Trent Grisham could hit a home run. He's hit 12 of them. He's had a wonderful season. But the one thing you cannot do, if you're Braziban or anybody else, is walk him ahead of Aaron Judge. That cannot happen. And he does on 5 pitches. At that point, luckily, Mendy is clearly thinking about me and what I said to him on Friday, because Braziban did not come anywhere close to Judge in the at-bat, puts him on base. And so now you're set up with 2 on and 2 out for a red-hot Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger, who was doing nothing for a while, has complicated the pitch around Judge idea because he's red hot. He is the star of the weekend. Like if they were doing the Hensley Mulans and they were picking the I'm the man now star of the series, it'd be Cody Bellinger. It wouldn't even be close. He was clearly very impactful all weekend long. So it makes things tricky when you pitch around Judge. I'd still do it. I still agreed with it. But obviously, It's trickier with the way Cody's hitting. And Bellinger, it's that comebacker off Brazoban in which Huascar probably should have tried to flip it to Pete Alonso instead of trying to run it to first base. But instead he runs it to first base, collides with Alonso, and now we're set up with bases loaded for Anthony Volpe. And speaking of the Hensley Mulans, the Make Believe Yankee podcast, the guy you'd be crushing if you're a Yankee fan right now is Anthony Volpe, who left a country on base. Let me add it up. He left a runner on second in the first, left a runner on first in the third, left the bases loaded in the fifth, and the bases loaded in the seventh. So I got 8 base runners, and I got 5 of the 8 being in scoring position. That's a rough one for Volpe. I mean, who's kidding who? But Brazoban falls behind them 3-0 and somehow fights back and strikes him out. So it was not easy, but Huascar Brazoban pitches in 2 of these games. He goes 2 2/3 innings, doesn't allow a run, and gave this offense a chance. Because when Brazoban strikes out Volpe to end the 7th inning, it's a tie game in the 8th with Soto, Alonso, and Vientos coming up. Score a freaking run. Do something. Devin Williams has, I guess, figured things out. There were a couple of hard hit balls against him. The Soto ball where DJ made the nice play and Soto barely ran. Alonso hit a screaming line drive right at Bellinger, and then Vientos struck out. So they did make some decent contact against Devin Williams, but the heart of the order does nothing after that escape job by Huascar Brazoban. And that was the moment in the top of the 8th inning when Vientos struck out. That was the moment where you knew they lost. You know, we always have these moments where, hey, I feel good, or I feel bad. That's the moment you knew they lost this game. But credit to Huascar Brazoban. He's the last man standing in terms of reliability in the Met bullpen, not named Edwin Diaz. If Edwin Diaz has a permanent space in the circle of trust, just because they need him, he's the closer, and even if he's struggling, he's in the circle of trust because you got no other choice. You look at the Met bullpen right now. Hennessy's Cabrera, no. We'll find out about Jose Castillo, who was just added to the roster after they acquired him from Arizona. But right now, and Dednell Nunez back in the minor leagues, which makes sense. He did not look sharp since coming up here. So those 2 guys, no circle of trust. Ryan Stanek got thrown out of the circle of trust about a month ago, even though he is a big candidate to come in and out and in and out. Like, that's what Stanek will be. He'll be all over the place, assuming he doesn't end up on the IL with this knee issue. Jose Butto, no. Max Kranick, booted out of the circle of trust. Reed Garrett, I mean, if he's still in it, he's hanging on by a thread. And then you got Brazoban, who unfortunately can't pitch every day. There was a part of me even surprised Mendy went to him on Sunday after he came out and got 5 outs on Saturday. So this Met bullpen is now featuring 1 guy in the circle of trust and Edwin Diaz. That's where they're at. But Huascar Brazoban, let's just make it official, because there's no pushback on this. This is the easiest Rico, I'm the man now star of the series that you'll ever have. Huascar Brazoban, congratulations to you. And right now, I mean, he's got his ERA basically under 1. It's truly incredible. Now, while this was not a weekend to celebrate, you can celebrate your highlights with Mio Sparkling Sake, a true crowd pleaser. Light, bubbly, and easy to enjoy. Whether you're at Citi Field or your favorite spot, ask for Mio Sparkling Sake by name. A new tradition, served chilled, imported from Japan. It's the official sake of Rico Brogna. Enjoy responsibly. The Rico Brogna email exploded based on this finale against the New York Yankees. So you want me to read a couple of these emails, get the feel from the Met fans before we head out to Boston to open up a 3-game series against the Red Sox?
I have this feeling that there's going to be a lot of positive emails in this one. Like, there's positive Tommy's going to be all up in this.
Well, positive Tommy putting the seed into Jet's head of tell your friends at school, congrats on your World Series. I told him, I said, you can do it. It's just, I'm never going to do it. Like, no. I want my children to think for themselves, even if I guide them towards the fanhood of certain teams. So if that's how you want to approach the first Subway Series, if that's the approach you want to take, okay. But I explained it to him as we were leaving the stadium. I said, look, here's the deal. This is what people used to say to me whenever the Mets would win a Subway Series game, and it would annoy me. Look, the one thing I will say just about this whole It's Your World Series thing, which is obviously stupid. We all know that. There is definitely a shift in the view of the Subway Series because of Soto leaving. Like, Yankee fans had a look in their eye that they didn't normally have for Mets Yankees. They always wanted to win it. You don't want to have to hear your friends or your brothers or sisters bothering you by the Mets beating you. But there was a different feel. Like, there was more energy from the Yankee fan for this Subway Series than there has been in the past. And it's obvious why. I mean, Soto left. They're chanting F. Juan Soto. They're chanting We Love Grisham. They're turning their back. Like, there's clearly a thing there. I wouldn't say it's their World Series, but there was certainly more aggression in this Subway Series.
By the way, did you notice that they were supposed to, on ESPN, talk to Juan Soto mid-game, but they changed it to Brandon Nimmo, and I'm assuming it's because of the constant FU Sotos. They probably didn't want to bleep it out the whole. They didn't want anything to leak, so that I'm assuming that's why they made that change.
I thought Soto didn't want to do it. Was it ESPN backing out of it or Soto backing out of it?
Well, whomever it was, I don't know. I mean, they said the way, however I heard it was, or whatever I read was that Soto wasn't going to do it. It's going to be Nimmo. So I didn't really dig too much deep into it. But I mean, again, the whole thing is that you're right. Yankee fans, and it's not. I'm not trying to put a cold water on anything here. The reality that the Yankee fans said that this wasn't going to be a big deal, but yet this was a huge moment for all Yankee fans to go out there and piss all over Juan Soto. I mean, it was huge. It was a big deal.
And I get it. And I totally get it. Like, I did some research, and I tweeted this out on Friday about the Mike Hampton reunion, because Mike Hampton and his situation with the Mets is probably the most similar thing we've ever had to Juan Soto. Obviously, Juan Soto is going to probably end up in the Hall of Fame. Mike Hampton is Mike Hampton. We understand the difference in terms of the player, but the comparison is that the Mets traded for a player in the final year of their contract in Mike Hampton, and he was a main cog for them going to a World Series. I mean, Mike Hampton was the NLCS MVP. We cannot ignore that. He didn't pitch well in the World Series, but nevertheless, he was one of the two aces that the Mets had that helped them win the pennant in 2000. He then leaves as a free agent, goes to the Rockies. Yes, he cited the school system, but we all know he left for the money, which is totally fine. That's the same as what happened here. The Yankees traded for a player. That player was very instrumental in them going to the World Series, and then he left. Whether it was for the money or it was because he thinks the Mets have a better future, it doesn't matter. He left, just like Mike Hampton left. So I went back into the archives because I honestly don't remember Mike Hampton's return. I got to be honest with you. And I think the reason I don't remember it is because I left where I was living in 2000. I graduated high school. I moved down to Washington, D.C., and my days of going to every Met game with my dad were just gone. I was living in Washington, D.C. So when Mike came back in August of 2001, I wasn't living there. I probably watched the game on the MLB package or whatever the hell I did. I don't remember it. He faced huge vitriol. Like, I mean, Met fans want it. The article I read said bloodthirsty Met fans. That's how we were described. So I get it. We all should get it. Why were we bloodthirsty at Mike Hampton? We were bloodthirsty because he left us. Didn't matter that he said the school system. He left us. He was a big part of the team. He helped us go to the World Series, and he left. Now, take Soto, who's a better player, is a position player, and went to the Mets, not the Rockies. Any Met fan who doesn't understand it, like, you're clueless. You should understand it. But what I said coming into this series is what I say now. That's about them. And if we're doing the Hensley Mulans, yeah, they may talk a lot about this. For us, this was a series against the Yankees that I wanted to win. That's it. Like, I don't look at it as anything other than that. Now, when we talked about Soto earlier getting hot, to me, it wasn't about, I want him to stick it to his former team. It was, I hope this is the moment he gets hot. I hope this is the moment where he starts to become the player we paid $765 million to. So, yeah, this series was more so for the Yankee fan to get their bloodthirst against the guy that left.
All right, well, let's get to the emails. I want to hear all the positives from everybody.
All right, well, let's start with someone who's mad at my fine executive producer, Tommy Lukauer. This is from Ralph. Ralph writes, Evan and Pete, let's not even sweat this. Yankee fans are so petty, and it's annoying. But Tommy's killing us with this nonsense about it being the Yankees World Series. They literally were in the World Series last year. To even make that comment is very dumb. I'm not responsible for what he says. ESPN announcers are awful and homers for the Yankees. Beyond ridiculous. They shouldn't do another Mets game. Oh, wait, next week they get to kiss the Dodgers' ass. With that said, the Mets are good, very good. Brazaban gets the I'm the Man right now award. Unfortunately, Pete is the negative. Tonight sucked, but it's just another game. I'll be in a suite at Fenway. Well, enjoy your time at Fenway. Look, I think Pete was a candidate for the net negative. I give it to Soto, I think, a lot because we all expected this to be the breakout. But look, Soto's defense was good. He made a big base running move. Pete's offense was okay in game 2. The rest of the weekend sucked and obviously made a big error. Look, this series featured a lot of net negatives. Take your pick. David writes, Mets offense can't turn it around. Evan, Met fans are fooling themselves thinking this offense will turn it around. Outside of Lindor, Soto, and Alonso, no one can be relied on. After the top 3, their 4 through 9 is truly not good. Vientos, career .242 batting average. Before last season, he hit .167 in 2022 and .211 in 2023. Alvarez, career .223 batting average. Career high .250 batting average right now. Taylor, career .241 batting average. Acuna, unproven, but doesn't seem like he's going to be much more than a .250 hitter. Nimmo drastically declined in 24 and continuing poor hitting in 25. Marte, no need to detail how terrible he is. Winker, career .262 hitter, but hasn't hit over .260 since 2021. Beatty, career .216 hitter. McNeil, hitting meh, but on the downside of his career. So who is going to turn this offense around? Who has proven in the past they are a better hitter than they are showing now and will turn it around? Vientos, because of one good season. Alvarez, because we think of his potential. Nimmo, who's been terrible for a season and a quarter. Beatty, who hasn't shown any consistency in the big leagues. Marte, whose career is over. McNeil, who's on the back end of his career. This offense is in massive trouble, and it's foolish to think otherwise. Wow, that was that was a takedown right there. A couple of things. Don't minimize the fact that they've got a top of the order that's as lethal as it can be. You know, Pete Alonso is coming back to the mean, but Juan Soto should be better. He should be significantly better. So I wouldn't minimize the fact that their top 3 hitters are that good. And I think what you did with everybody else is you looked at the negative to their career. You know, Brett Beatty, I don't know if this is a turnaround for Brett Beatty, but he has shown a pulse over the last couple of weeks. Acuna, we don't know what he is. Now, you're assuming he's a 250-ish hitter? We don't know. You're right about Alvarez. A lot of it is the potential, and we've seen it. But I don't think this lineup is as bad as you just described it. Luckily, their pitching has bailed them out, which is kind of stunning when you think about it. Christopher Kagan is pissed off about the schedule. Why doesn't baseball balance the schedule like the NFL or at least do a better job? The Mets have been getting effed over for years now. The Mets lose tiebreakers in 22 and 24 to the Braves. So even though there are 162 games, 1 or 2 games can be the difference. This year, the Mets have 4 different games. The Mets this year have 4 different games to the Phillies. The Mets have 3 extras against the Yankees. The Yankees are not only in first in the AL East, but the AL's best record and went to the World Series. The Phillies get 3 extra games against the Blue Jays. Correct me, the Phillies were finished first in the NL East. Why do they get 3 extra versus a last place team from last year? The Mets get an extra game against the Dodgers with the best record and World Series champs, and the Phillies get an extra game against the Rockies, who again were a last place team. How do the Mets get 4 games? All right, let me get to this because he's right. The Yankee thing is just the geographic of baseball wanting to promote their local rivalries. So this has been going on forever. This is not new. Last year, it was 4 games against the Yankees, guaranteed. This year, it is now 6. And this has been going on since 1999, where the Mets play the extra interleague games against the Yankees, and the Yankees tend to be good. They haven't been under 500 since freaking 1992. The one with the Dodgers and the Rockies, I'm not even sure how MLB does that, but you play teams not in your division, but in your league 6 or 7 times. And I have no idea how that occurs. Like if that is based on anything other than just, you're playing 7 games against this team or that team. The Yankee thing, look, I could sit here and get all pissy about it. It's been going on forever. I mean, it is what it is. Like, I wish baseball treated Mets Yankees the way the NFL treats Jets Giants, which is, hey, there's a formula. You'll play them when the formula hits. There's nothing special to Jets Giants the way it is Mets Yankees. But we got to deal with it. And honestly, I know in football we make a big deal of the schedule. In baseball, it's about when you play a team. Last year, the Mets went 4-0 against the Yankees. They went to the World Series. They happened to play them when J.D. Davis was their cleanup hitter, So a lot of it is about timing. Lawrence writes, Pete Alonso, I'm disgusted. His April batting performance was an illusion. His defense stinks and his offense isn't what it's cracked up to be. He can walk after this season. He's done nothing for weeks and can't make simple plays. Ryan Clifford time, and the rest of the bats can wake up too. Wow. Matt Wright, shades of Duda. But honestly, here's the deal. That was a great game and a great series. The reason you lost game 3 is Brazoban and Stanek. If you rely on guys like Stanek, Brazoban, and the Reed Garretts of the world for high-leverage, big-time moments consistently, you're going to lose. Stanek is only good in garbage time, and we all know that. 100 doesn't mean anything when it's straight and you don't have another secondary pitch. Most of Brazoban's good moments have been in low-leverage, whatever situations. Both guys are not dominant relievers. Nothing close. I do think, to a degree, Matt, you're going to be right, that when we're sitting here in July, we're probably going to talk about the need to add a high-leverage, big-time reliever. We'll see once we get closer who that guy is. My hope with Brazoban, I don't think that's fair. I don't think most of his situations have been low leverage. This wasn't low leverage. The last 2 games he pitched in wasn't low leverage. That's not fair. He comes into a tie game in the 7th inning. After he gets the first 2 out, he's got to go through 2, 3, 4, 5 of the batting order in a tie game. He's got to strike out Anthony Volpe with the bases loaded. Go back to Saturday's game. It's the 6th inning. It's a tie game. There's 2 on and 1 out. So I think at the beginning of the season, you're right. Brazoban barely made the team. So yes, early on, he was not used in the highest of leverage situations. Lately, he has been. The thing about bullpens, and we saw it last year, the Mets at the deadline went, hey, let's bring in the lottery tickets and see what happens. And they're seeing some reward on that this year, specifically with Huascar Brazoban. But I do think if we're projecting what we're talking about going to the trade deadline by July, I think we are probably talking about the Mets adding a big-time reliever. We got the Red Sox coming up. This is a very tough schedule. I know the Red Sox are sitting, a couple of games under 500, but I think you look at the talent on this roster, you figure they're better than that. That's the other thing to keep an eye on when you face a team. Like the Mets faced the Cardinals. We all thought they sucked. Now the Cardinals are battling for first place. Mets played the Twins. We thought they sucked. They go out and they win 1 million games in a row. I would project the Red Sox will finish above 500. I don't love them to win the division. I think the Yankees are going to win the division. I've thought that all year, but I do think the Red Sox are better than what their record says. So this is a tough stretch for the Mets. These 3 against the Yankees, the 3 up in Boston, and then obviously the series at home against the LA Dodgers. Luckily, it'll go from the extreme of tough to the extreme of, boy, you better win all these games when they take on the White Sox and the Rockies. But it'll be Kodai Senga pitching the opener against a right-hander named Hunter Dobbins, who's pitched reasonably well for Boston. Clay Holmes is going to pitch the Tuesday game. It sounds like, what's his name, is coming off the IL, the former Dodger. My God, my brain is fried. Oh, my God.
Walker Buehler.
I'm sorry. I got to unmute. What'd you say?
Buehler.
Walker
Buehler.
Sorry about that. This is what happens when we're doing a Rico at 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, who's that guy? I feel like my dad or my grandpa. And then the real challenge is going to be Tyler McGill against Garrett Crochet in the finale of this series, where they face a lefty, where we won't see Brett Beatty, even though we'll want to see Brett Beatty. So 2 righties and a lefty in this Boston series. Hopefully they can win 2 out of 3 and at least make this road trip a nice, solid 3-3 road trip. But frustrating weekend. There's no other way to put it. And the offense is a worry. Can Fenway Park be where they break out of it? Hopefully that's the case. I apologize. We only got to a couple of your emails. If we went to all of them, we'd be here for 2 hours, and that's not healthy for any of us. So, but you can email us. We will try to read as many as we can as we do Ricos throughout the week. The RicoB@gmail.com. The RicoB@gmail.com. So officially, if you are keeping track at home, the Rico I'm the Man Now star of the series is indeed Huascar Brazoban. And the net you tell me. I say the negative is Juan Soto. Do you want to put up Pete Alonso because of the error? I mean, I know I'm going to be ripped for being biased. You tell me, should it be Soto, Alonso, or somebody else? You want to make it Soto?
I want to keep it Soto because I do think that offensively that was a key that we were looking for. There was a lot of opportunity for him to come up in a big spot, and he did nothing. Yes, Alonso threw the ball away in the 8th inning. Okay, fine, but there was a lot of other issues going on. It wasn't just that.
Yeah, and I apologize. I take an L for suggesting that the Met bats were going to hit Max Fried. That did not happen, so sorry about that one. That's an L. Oh, by the way, DeGrom at Yankee Stadium this week. And unfortunately, he's scheduled to pitch Wednesday, which is such a busy sports night. You got the Mets wrapping up the series against the Red Sox, and obviously the Knicks are opening up the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. Otherwise, I would consider going to Yankee Stadium and doing a drive-home Rico where I would break down DeGrom's return to New York. But unfortunately, that is not going to work out. Either way, frustrating series against the Yankees. Let's turn it around against the Red Sox. Let's help the Yankees out by turning it around against the Red Sox. Remember, subscribe to Rico Brogna, so whenever we have a pop-up Rico, which can happen at any moment, you're ready and you're not surprised. And also subscribe to the WFAN YouTube page if you consume the Rico Brogna via YouTube. Thank you very much for listening to a frustrating, kind of depressing edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.